Viewer discretion advised.
Eric Harris is one of the most captivating and popular true crime figures of all time, aside from Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer. The easy explanation as to why this is would be that Eric is seen as an attractive young boy in the eyes of teen girls. This is the general consensus, but it's also a gross overgeneralization of something much more complex. I believe those who condone the actions of Eric Harris aren't doing so just because they think the dude is attractive. I believe they're venting their frustrations and fantasies of what they'd like to do to those who they believe have wronged them. The Columbine massacre only happened because of Eric Harris and his persistence. In the eyes of young, impressionable girls who look up to him, Eric was the initiator of his own destiny. Eric Harris was not your average 18-year-old boy. Instead of thinking about girls or college or what he'd be doing with his life, he was fantasizing about brutally raping women in his bedroom, ripping knives through people's bodies for fun, and venting about his God complex, which played a large role in the massacre at Columbine High. People who are naive about the actual happenings at Columbine High in 1999 like to point out that Eric and Dylan were bullied. However, that was just a petty excuse for Eric to kill people. Eric's homicidal tendencies and criminal behavior go back long before the massacre. To put it best, here's a quote from Eric himself. "You people could have shown more respect, treated me better, asked for my knowledge or guidance more, treated me more like a senior, and maybe I wouldn't have been as ready to tear your fucking heads off." The people who interacted with Eric most likely thought they were being quite respectful in the way that they talked to him, as they probably treated him with basic respect any human being would deserve. However, for Eric, that wasn't enough. He demanded to be worshipped like a god. To understand the mind of Eric Harris is to understand the mind of the boy he ended his life with, Dylan Klebold. Eric's relationship with Dylan was incredibly complex, so much so that they were widely suspected to be gay for each other. Dylan and Eric were very different people, but their chemistry relied on the differences they showcased. Eric was a bona fide psychopath, whom only earned for the destruction of humanity. He was insecure, manipulative, charming, and had ideologies similar to a cult leader. Dylan was an impressionable, shy, depressed, suicidal, and quiet boy. To make a long story short, Eric was like Dylan's Charles Manson, and their dichotomy only brought them closer together. For years, the general consensus has been that if Eric and Dylan had never met, Dylan Klebold might have lived a normal life. In a video from the basement tapes, Dylan Klebold reveals to Eric that he does in fact have Jewish family members. Remember that Eric was heavily anti-Semitic. Eric, in a state of pity and disgust, expresses his sympathies for Dylan. Dylan was very visibly shaken, desperate for approval from the only person that understood him, scared of what his reaction might be. In the same way a child would when confessing something to their father. This basic understanding of Dylan and Eric's relationship should give you an idea of Eric's mindset and mental state. Eric was smart with an agenda, and unfortunately for Dylan, Eric knew how to preach to the choir. While Eric was fantastic at fooling adults and those he needed something from, his real side would come out to play in his journal entries. "I just want to overpower and engulf myself in them. Who can I trick into my room first? I can sweep someone off their feet, tell them what they want to hear, be all nice and sweet, and then fuck them like an animal, feel them from the inside," as Reznor said. Oh, that's something else. That one 9 Inch Nails video I saw, Broken or Closer or something. The one where the guy is kidnapped and tortured like hell. Actually, I want to do that too. I want to tear a throat out with my own teeth like a pop can. I want to gut someone with my hand, to tear a head off and rip out the heart and lungs from the neck, to stab someone in the neck, to stab someone in the gut, to shove it in and yank the fucking blade out of their ribcage. I want to grab some weak little freshman and just tear them apart like a fucking wolf. Show them who is God. Strangle them, squish their head, bite their temples, rip off their jaw, rip off their collarbones, break their arms in half and twist them around. The lovely sounds of bones cracking and flesh ripping. Ah. So much to do, and so little chances. November 17th, 1998. At the end of the day, neither of the boys responsible for the Columbine massacre were victims. Hell, most of the people they shot had nothing to do with their personal grievances. Dylan Klebold made the choice to pick up that Tech-9 and shoot 5 people to death, as did Eric when he used a pump-action shotgun to brutally murder 8 kids. You may ask yourself, what is the purpose of this episode? Well, before I can dive into the early life of Eric Harris, I must first pre-establish that any sympathy thrown Dylan or Eric's way is purely irrational. There is nothing to feel sympathetic about when it comes to Eric and Dylan. Now, I'm not condemning you if you do happen to have some cute little crush on Eric or Dylan, or have sympathy for their actions. If I were to do that, I would alienate probably 80% of my audience. However, I do hope with this series I can change your mind, or, at least, allow you to have an educated understanding of the actions of Eric and Dylan, so that you can make up your mind with clarity on how you feel about the whole situation, instead of being influenced by how the boys looked, or by misleading videos online showcasing a more normal side to the boys. After all, if you attended Columbine High on April 20th, 1999, you may have fallen victim to natural selection.